Hi friends, this is Brent, the Productivity Coach. Today we're talking about affirmations and visualization. I'm in an interesting point now personally in my own life, filming this just over halfway through 2022, and we have a baby daughter, my wife and I, who is now 6 months old. She's actually almost 7. And just in the last few days, really just in the last week or so, we're finally able to get her to sleep through the night. This is like her big development. And what that means though is that for the whole first part of the year, she wasn't sleeping very much at all. And what that meant was that we'd be getting up multiple times through the night, barely sleeping and just tired all day long. And then having a sense of cumulative tiredness. You know, when you have this sort of sleep debt, when you're not able to get a good night's sleep multiple nights in a row, it just gets worse and worse. What I didn't realize, despite how tired I felt all the time, was that it was actually affecting me mentally and emotionally quite a bit. This is the sort of thing where it's like only when you have distance on it, you're able to get out of it and kind of look back and see how bad it really was. And it had me sort of anxious and paranoid and worried. And I was just going through the whole gamut of negative emotions, and like my thinking felt really closed in and pessimistic. And it was really getting to me. So now that's not an issue. Now we're sleeping through the night and it just feels amazing. And one thing that's impressed upon me in particular is that I will never take for granted the ability to sleep through the night. And so I want to begin this talk with an invitation to you that if you are able to go to bed on time and wake up on time and sleep through the night and have an undisturbed sleep, if you're one of these fortunate people, which I now count myself among their ranks once again, you may want to consider having some gratitude for it right now and appreciation of how wonderful it is to be able to sleep. And so now that I am able to sleep through the night, now it feels like there's a renewed lease on life for me. So what I want to do is I want to start getting everything back together, getting everything back into good habits, and really getting back on a productive path. And so as I speak to you, if you're listening to this right now, as I'm publishing it, or if you're watching this later, months or even years later, I would like this video to serve as an invitation for you and me and for all of us to move with a stronger and firmer intention in our lives to move into a higher level of productivity. And to do this for ourselves, to do this for our loved ones, to do this for our vocation, to do this for our purpose, to do this to become self-actualized, just for the joy and the thrill of becoming self-actualized as a person. Not as a guilt trip, but just to see how far we can go and how great we can become. So in this video, I'm going to touch on one of the fundamentals, as I mentioned earlier. So it's visualization and affirmations. And I want to talk about that and how to do it, how to create results with it. And I want to put out more videos on the very foundation, the very fundamentals for what it takes to really get our shit together and get into a high level productivity, as opposed to some other videos that I like to deliver where they're more sort of theoretical talks on how to find peace and wellness and clarity and all these things. This is going to be a really practical episode with practical tools, and I want to do a few more in the upcoming ones as well. So I want to begin on the subject of affirmations and visualization because there are a few misgivings about it culturally. It gets somewhat of a bad reputation, and it's associated with concepts like the law of attraction and certain pop culture psychology, such as The Secret, when that came out, which also has a bit of a bad reputation. In my opinion, undeserved. It's actually it's a great movie. It's a great concept, the law of attraction, very useful, very beneficial concepts. And but usually when people get the wrong idea about it, people think that affirmations and visualization would replace something like hard work or effort or a good practical strategy, or say developing self-discipline, when this is not true at all. It's actually affirmations and visualization work in conjunction with these things in order to create very, very incredibly powerful results. So this particular tool would be for you if you experience an ambition gap or an accomplishment gap between where you are and where you want to end up. So in other words, if you consider yourself to be an ambitious person with a lot to do, there's a lot that you want to get done, there's a big distance that you want to cover in this lifetime, then Affirmations and visualization are absolutely indispensable. Absolutely indispensable. I recommend concluding the time in your life where you're not using affirmations and visualization, and really, really use this as a technique going forward, internalizing it and making it into your own thing. I'm lumping also affirmations and visualizations under the same category because you can sort of treat them in the same way. The only major difference being that affirmations are words that you put together and either repeat, or you say them out loud with your voice, or you journal them out and you kind of speak them into existence. And visualization is moving into the sort of imagined territory of what you want to accomplish and inhabiting it mentally and emotionally, and just kind of imagining yourself there so you can kind of sync up with it. And but really, when you're doing affirmations, ideally you're also visualizing, and when you're doing a visualization, it's best accompanied with affirmations. So these really are siblings that belong together. Also, this is a practice that you can receive training and teachings on how to do it, but it's best made into your own personal thing, your own personal sanctuary. Your one thing that when you go into your imagination, your protected place, the place that you protect from cynicism and doubt and naysayers and haters and people who would dissuade you from your dreams and your ambitions. You would protect it from all of that and all of them, and visit it, and make it into something that's very native and natural to you. This is how to get the best bang for your buck out of this kind of practice. So something to keep in mind as we go forward. You can use visualization and affirmations to create inner states. You can use them to create inner qualities. And then you can use them, thirdly, to create objective accomplishments, objective success. So when I talk about inner states, I'm referring to something like happiness, peace, fulfillment, wellness, stability, centeredness, clarity, not so much clarity, but just centeredness, wellness, like anything that would fall along the line of a state that you would like to experience and experience generally as your life. And I'm starting with this one because when you use affirmations and visualization to create a state, you can more or less get that state immediately. And if you use this habitually over days and over weeks, then your life will just start to take on the tone of this particular state. So in other words, if you say suppose you were to say out loud, this is how you do your affirmations. You say, I'm happy, I'm a happy person, I'm fulfilled, I'm a fulfilled person. If you did that every day, when in very, very short order, you would start to experience that state, and then you would start to familiarize yourself to it, and you would start to train yourself on it. In the esoteric circles, we'd say you train your vibration on it so that you start to vibrate with this particular quality. And then you keep using these affirmations basically until it becomes your natural home state and it sort of has its own momentum, after which you might change your affirmations to say something else instead. In a second, we're going to get into the hiccups or the problems and challenges that you might occur when you use these. But for the time being, this is how this sort of thing works. If you want to cultivate an inner quality, so not necessarily a state, which is sort of like a subjective experience that you would kind of feel right now, a quality is how you engage with the world. So examples would be focus, which is more of a skill. So an affirmation might be, I am incredibly focused, or every day I become more focused, or I am a master at focusing on one thing at a time, right? And just as a quick side note here, when you are creating your list of affirmations, the menu is just so massive. And as you practice this skill over time, one major benefit of practicing it is that you're able to craft statements that feel particularly juicy for you. So for example, if focus is something that you want to develop a little bit more of, you might start with, I'm good at focusing, or I have a lot of focus, right? But then as you dig into what you really want, what kind of experience you really want to create for yourself, and as you really continue to experience your life And as you continue to experience your reality as moldable and plastic and something that you can really influence with your words, then you can create ones that you really enjoy. For example, I am masterful at focus. I'm the most focused person I know. I can focus on anything for prolonged periods of time. Whatever sort of quality that you want to cultivate in yourself, you begin with those affirmations and you practice being able to say them as if they were true, saying them with conviction. And then as you say them, really imbuing yourself with the experience of this being true. Because when you do that, unconsciously, the unconscious mind isn't really all that good at discerning between the physical reality that you find yourself in now and an imagined reality that you might put yourself in through your imagination. From an unconscious perspective, it's all really the same kind of experience without any sort of discernment. And so when you say, like, I'm masterful at focusing, I focus all the way through, I get all sorts of stuff done, then unconsciously, it just starts to make its way in deeper and deeper into your belief structure, where once it reaches deep enough, it starts to germinate, and unconsciously you start to create and accumulate evidence to support that as a belief. Which at that point, once you start to accumulate evidence for the belief, it starts to pick up its own momentum, and that's when things start to really blossom and unfold in that particular direction. So focus is one. You can use all sorts of other qualities such as power, creativity, flow, passion, engagement, courage, bravery. I am incredibly courageous. I am naturally courageous. I am skillful at doing courageous things. I always speak up for myself. I always set boundaries. Really, I guess now that I'm saying this out loud, it's occurring to me to mention that the word master, like masterful and mastery, is really quite a nice one to use. You can use it to any quality you want. I'm masterful at boundary setting. I'm masterful at communicating and articulating what's in my mind that I want to share. This will get you really far as well. So good. So we have inner states that you want to use affirmations for, inner qualities that you want to cultivate, skill and wherewithal that you want to cultivate in yourself. And then the third one would be objective success. So money, career, job, physical health, something that you want to manifest on the material realm. And so as you might imagine, this is the sort of thing that takes usually a little bit more of an on-ramp. You'll want to actually really practice with what it is you want to, that you want to manifest in your life. So I'm rich, I'm a millionaire, I'm earning XYZ amount of dollars per month, per year. And generally speaking, a major thing that gets in the way of creating the thing that we're using the affirmations for in terms of external success is our own belief system. You could, there are other things that might be contended with as well, and there's debate and there's philosophy to be had within there depending on who you ask. But the one thing that everybody would agree on, I think, on the discussion of affirmations and creating success, objective success in your life, is that if you are asking for something but don't really, really believe that you can create it or receive it or achieve it, like, now or in present tense or like, in these days, or if it feels like there's all sorts of stuff in the way, all sorts of obstacles to overcome before you could possibly receive this thing, then then the affirmations, they won't work. They're unlikely to work for you. And so there's a lot of belief work that needs to be done. This really is a good segue into the next section, which is what affirmations do. Affirmations and visualization is that they focus you and they move you in a propelled way towards the thing that you wish to accomplish or receive. So there's a huge increase in velocity, a direct path to whatever it is that you want, whether it's an inner quality, an inner experience, or an objective success. But what happens is that if there's anything that is in the way between you and that thing that you're looking to gravitate to, then that thing will make itself apparent, and it will often make itself really glaringly apparent. Like it will really get up in your face. And then sometimes what people will use this as evidence to say that the affirmations don't work. And of course, this is false, because the affirmations are working by bringing you exactly to the door that needs to be unlocked in order for you to move on to the next stage. The fact that you were brought directly to it shows you that you're focused and that you're looking in the right way, as opposed to meandering in the dark. That's like, and unconsciously, the unconscious mind, another thing that it's good at is creating a very, very direct path to whatever it is that we're doing. So it'll skip the nonsense. It's not interested in what culture has to say. It's not interested in role playing or doing what it's supposed to do or what it should do. It just goes right there, you know, for that thing. It's sort of like when a 3-year-old will like shoplift candy from a counter before learning that stealing is wrong. It's just like, I want it and I get it. So it's a very powerful mechanism to work with. So in terms of obstacles that come up, you might run into a mental or emotional obstacle. And so that might look like, say, for me, like, you know, an affirmation and something that I would visualize, that I have done and I continue to do, is to have, say, a big, successful YouTube channel with like a lot of subscribers, hopefully such as yourself, people hitting the like button, you know, hopefully such as yourself as well. And it's a way that I want to expand. It's something that I want to grow and cultivate, and I really like doing this. And so as I imagine it, what I notice is that I'm actually running through a lot of my own inner friction around making YouTube videos. There's a lot of insecurity that has been coming up that I have to recognize and I have to go through, such as the fear of not making sense, the fear of not being sufficiently interesting, these kinds of things. And so I have to do my own work on these in order to dissolve them as reasons not to make these videos for you. And so then as I dissolve them one by one by one, then I become a little bit more comfortable and natural making these for you. And then the path to creating a more successful YouTube channel becomes more lubricated, because the inner friction and resistance that I'm crashing up against is being dissolved. So that's what visualization does, is it lights up and makes friction apparent to you so that you can see what's in the way. So there's, of course, inner friction, inner obstacles, but then, of course, there are also exterior obstacles, such as not knowing how to do something, not knowing what to do. And so for these, you know, sometimes you need to find training, you need to learn, you need to look stuff up, you need to ascend a learning curve, which means you just have to like keep returning to something, even though like you're putting in all this effort to learn and you're not able to get anything done. Like a good example would be if I'm making music. I'm pretty good at playing the piano, but I'm not really good at recording and mixing and mastering on my laptop using a software such as Reaper or Logic or one of these. And so whenever I try to use these softwares, my movement is so incredibly slow because I just don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to make even the basic movements, that the learning curve is way too steep, and it kind of tends to buck me off and makes me really frustrated. And so these are just things that you need to learn how to stick with, you know, to identify what's in the way and then just continue hacking at it until the way is clear, until the friction is removed and the way is lubricated. So one way of doing this that works really well is visualization. So what I used to do, my job before coaching was a charity fundraiser. And what I would do is I would stand out. I've mentioned this in some different videos, but what I would do is I would just kind of stand on a street corner or at a mall or sometimes in the local airport, and I had a booth, and people would come by and I would tell them about the local charity and sign them up for a monthly donation. And it's kind of a really exciting, really kind of interpersonal job, and I really enjoyed it for a lot of reasons. But when a day came where I needed to make a lot of donations, what I would do is I would look at the tablet. I have this like electronic tablet that I would, the form would come up and I'd fill people's credit card information on. And And so at the beginning of the workday, I would hold this tablet, I'd look at it, and I would imagine that there's already 3 days worth of donations signed up on this tablet. So it's like it's already done, it's already there. And from an objective point of view, it doesn't look very much different than if that were actually the case, if that makes sense. So either way, like even like as an imagination exercise, or if it were actually the case, it would still look the same. So I can just pretend that I already have 3 days worth of donations on the tablet. And then what I would do is I would spend about 45 seconds, maybe a minute, eyes closed or eyes open. Eyes open would be fine. And I would just stay in the imagined reality that I have all this money that I've made. And I just stay in it as if it were true. And I would ask myself questions like, how do I feel now that it's true that I have all these donations, right? Here I'm in this imagined space. I might ask myself also, what would I think, or how would I feel? How would I hold myself if this were actually the case, if this were already done? And I would practice, I'd pay attention to how I breathe. I'd pay attention to how I would stand. What would my posture be like? And then through these questions, and then through receiving the answers, and then through just kind of immersing myself in this experience, there will be this like one brief but blessed moment where I forget that I don't actually have the thing, that it's not there in this particular reality. And then, soon I stop, and then I return to this reality. It's the beginning of the day. I need to go get donations, and I'm not in denial. Like I'm still tuned into the fact that I still need to go get the donations. I still need to make it, but there's a huge shift in my demeanor, and there's a shift in how I feel about everything and how I interact with people, because the whole energy is different. I don't need it from them anymore. Like I'm kind of coming at the world without any sense of need or any sort of deficiency. And then people would feel attracted to come over and talk to me, and they would eventually sign up, and I would usually get that amount that I'd visualized. And that's how this sort of thing works. So it takes practice, especially if you haven't been practicing this. If you haven't had a moment in your life before where you were doing this kind of thing, it is a little bit of a weird thing. It takes practice doing it, but it's something that you can do. And what so many people report when they work with the practice of affirmations and visualization is how astonishing the results are. The results are just astonishing. Like sometimes you'll get the thing to such a degree of specificity that it's really difficult to believe. And really, you just do it a few more times and you still get your results to that level of specificity that you start to develop a different appreciation of your own unconscious mind and the creative process, the process of creating your life and creating results in your life. That's just how it is. So a pitfall is that when we talk about the law of attraction, which is what we're talking about, and affirmations and visualization, this is not the sort of thing that you can take into, say, a scientific lab and put on a lab coat and prove that what we're talking about is true, because these principles are so plastic that they will conform to skepticism, and they will produce results that a skeptic would expect to see, because the whole principle at play is to set out an expectation and to receive that which is expected. It's a way of putting it. So in order to get the results that you're after, the price of admission will be your skepticism. You'll be required to lay down your skepticism completely. So you can't like carry a little pocket with you. You'd have to put it all the way down and approach it with maximum sincerity. And if you do that, if you approach with maximum sincerity, then you will get the results. You will see. And the results may be like the complete 100% picture of what you're looking for. It might be a little thing, but then if it's like a little result, then you'll come at it again and get 2% and then 5% and then 10%, 25%, 50%, and then 100% eventually. So there's still a practice element. I want to say as well that when you use affirmations and visualization, as I mentioned briefly in the very beginning, you're still putting in effort. You're not sitting around and waiting for stuff come to you. But what you find is that there will be inspiration that will arise within you to do something. So say if you're looking to grow your business and make a whole bunch of money, and you just did like for the last couple of days visualizations and affirmations for a big successful business, well then you'll receive an inspiration to do something. And when it comes up, you'll feel it. And it's like, yes, this is what I'm going to do. And you'll be totally congruent with it. And if you're willing to, you'll take action on it immediately, get going. And then this will be one of these situations where the universe supports you and it seems to really have the wind at your back as you go through this. That's how this sort of thing works. It's affirmations and visualization are a real meeting point between you and the universe, between personal will and divine will. So that's it. So that's a little talk on affirmations and visualization. If you want to try this, take some time to think about results that you'd like to create in your life. And I suggest dipping in all three categories: inner experience, inner qualities. So again, inner qualities being skills, wherewithal, ability, how you want to be as a person, personality traits, this kind of thing, as opposed to experience, which is more like what your state is like. And then thirdly, objective success, something that you want on the material realm. And create, if you're going to go the affirmation way, create a bunch of present tense sentences and then repeat them aloud with your voice. And then emote. So the emotion really kind of revs this up into a higher gear. Emote, visualize it, really seeing it happen. Extra points if you can move even into the appreciation and gratitude aspect of it. So it's like, I'm so grateful that I'm already here, so grateful that I've done this, so grateful that I've become this person. And that will be really powerful as well. And then you're combining the affirmation and visualization element. Different ways of doing it are writing it out, journaling. Like for example, a journal prompt might be, now that I have a remote job and I'm traveling, just as an example, I'm able to do this, this, and that. And today I woke up and I did X, Y, and Z, and then create the whole story and really immerse yourself in it. Really get into the imaginatory element of it. And then when you're done, put it down, forget it, just let it go, and then go about your day and see what happens over the ensuing days. You'll probably notice something immediately, like a shift or like some sort of real world response to what you did. But definitely over the next 5 days, if you do it 5 days in a row, there will be no mistaking it. You'll see that like suddenly like a rudder has been put in place on your ship and now it's moving in a direction. So very powerful, very important practice. So this is part of me, what I'm going to resume doing as I pick my life back up now that I'm able to sleep and now that I'm able to actually have ambition once again. This is something that I'm doing. So let this be an invitation that we'll do this together. And then on the next video, I'll talk about something else that we can do to really click things up into a higher gear. Thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in getting coached, you can get a session for $5. Just look in the description below for information. In the meantime, please hit like on the video. Please consider subscribing and catch you on the next one. Thank you.